Guys, my guest today is on a quest to change our attitude about something that is very important. I mean, we know it at the back of our heads, but guys, we have not been paying enough attention. Now, here today to wake us all up, especially those of us Africans living in the abroad. This is a very, very brilliant and extremely brilliant Nigerian teenager living in New York, Femi Joshua. First of all, Femi, before I even introduce you to the people, you're telling me that every year I am ingesting 11,500 microplastics in my body just because I live and eat in America?
Absolutely, yes. All the plastic that we use ends up in the oceans, and when it's eaten by ocean animals that we eat, those microplastics go into our body because they don't break down.
This is only if I eat seafood, right?
That is true, but there are other ways that microplastics are actually ingested by us, and also there are other ways that plastic will affect us and affect our health. For example, if we eat other foods that are processed by the same companies that will process seafood, there are traces of microplastics that will end up in other foods that don't have any direct relation to seafood. And also the plastic that is being burned into the environment and how it rests in the ozone layer, those fumes, those toxic fumes actually we actually breathe those fumes in. So not only is plastic affecting us in the physical sense, but we're also breathing in those and they pollute our air as well.
Is there a cause for alarm?
There most definitely is, because those plastics will stay in our bodies and they won't break down. So they're just living inside of us and they pile up over time. We should be worried because over time, when like microplastics lodge into our body, they can lead to intestinal issues that can cause all kinds of health problems for Americans, such as trouble eating, such as trouble with releasing waste from the body, and other health issues.
By the way, he needs our help. He needs your help. Make sure that whatever you do, even if you don't watch the whole of this interview, please help him fill a survey that would really go a long way in making a difference in people paying more attention to plastic. Femi, tell us about the project that you're working on in school.
Well, I'm enrolled in the science research course in my school, and basically, I'm trying to tackle plastic pollution and find out the best way to decrease it. So, essentially, there are lots of plastic waste management strategies that just aren't working, such as putting them into landfills, which ends up harming the environment as toxic chemicals are released. People try burning plastics, but that releases, again, harmful chemicals like dioxin, which will lodge in the Earth's atmosphere, add to global warming, and speed it up. So I'm trying to discover the best way to manage plastic waste. And from what I discovered, the best way to cause a reduction in plastic waste would be to get consumers to use less plastic products. Essentially, if consumers use less plastic products, companies will have to make less plastic in general, and that would lead to an overall decrease in plastic waste. I'm trying to figure out what motivators actually would cause consumers to reduce their plastic use more in order to cause a general reduction in plastic use from the role of the consumer, as opposed to trying methods like recycling that don't always work.
When I looked at your survey, you put in there that more than 1 million animals, sea animals, well, marine animals, die every year as a result of plastic pollution.
Yes, that's very true. Lots of sea animals don't know the difference between the food that they eat and plastic products that we make. So they will eat them and it'll end up choking them. It'll end up lodging in their systems and killing both them and any animals that they might have inside of them.
What motivated you? Why did you decide to do something like this as your school project?
Well, I've always actually been very interested in animals in general and, the welfare of animals and how they're doing. And I found that one of the greatest problems that animals actually encounter is plastic pollution. Marine plastic pollution, as I said, causes the death of millions of marine animals and also harms land animals that encounter these plastic products and also eat the fish and the sea creatures that eat these plastic products as well. I then found that it also has such a great impact on us. So I wanted to see what I could do in order to help both us and the animals around the world overcome plastic pollution.
Okay, wow. Just tell us exactly how you're trying to achieve what you just described.
Well, I'm doing a survey that basically assesses people's positions on plastic pollution as a global issue. It assesses what could potentially motivate people to reduce their plastic use and use alternatives to plastic products. So I'm hoping that through this survey, I could find out which motivator plays the bigger role in causing a change in consumer use habits, then being able to implement that on consumers to cause them to use less plastic products overall.
And that is why, guys, if you're watching this, please and please, the link to his survey is in the description. We'll also put it on the screen. Please just take like 10 minutes and help us fill out the survey. The survey itself is not that, it's not long. It's just that there were some things written at the beginning just for you to know what you're feeling. It's okay to glance through all that, but please and please make sure that you fill the survey, please. So the link is in the description. So when people fill this survey, Femi, what happens? How are we helping with this project if we fill out this survey?
Well, basically, I'm going to analyze the results of the survey. So I'm going to look at which motivator, categorized into individual and collective motivators, which I will explain later, which motivator played a bigger role in causing a change in consumers' use habits. So when I get the larger population as to one motivator, I'll know that, okay, this plays a bigger role. So this is what we should be working on implementing in the lives of our consumers.
Wow. Thank you so much, Femi. How old are you?
15.
There's more facts in the survey people would see, like how 90% of all plastic products are not actually recycled even after use. They're actually just left in the environment. Even though we put them in the recycle bin, they are not actually recycled. You want to say something about that?
Yes, well, there are plastics that can be recycled, but most of the plastic that is used, such as food containers, straws, or plastic utensils, those fall under the category of single use plastics. And that means that they're only used once, they cannot really be used again. So then thrown away and end up in landfills just because of the fact that they can only be used once. So these are the majority of plastics that are in our environment, which causes an increase in plastic products being left in the environment.
Okay, so Femi, what can we do? What are some of the things that we can do beyond filling out the survey? You're telling us not to use plastic. So what do we use now?
Well, there's a lot of sustainable plastic alternatives that are actually cost effective as well. Oftentimes, if you just use a paper bag instead of a plastic one, things like that, getting a large group of people to follow that same trend would overall cause bigger companies to reduce the amount of plastic they're putting out. So, frequently using plastic alternatives actually does help the environment. You can always use reusable containers. Like I said, there are those plastic products that can be washed and reused over time, so using things like that as opposed to plastic products that can be used once actually has a great impact.
Thank you so much, Femi. Is there anything else that you want us to know?
I just think that obviously there are the big sanitation industries that promise dealing with plastic products well, but the future of the effect that plastic waste has on the environment actually rests on our hands as the consumers of plastic products. So it's up to us to make the changes. It's up to us to cause the companies to change the amount of plastic that they're putting out. So it's up to us to really save the environment from the negative effects of plastic waste.
And plastic use has grown 20 times in the last 50 years, right?
Right. Because of the rise of many online food delivery services and shipping services, there's been a drastic increase in the amount of plastic being used.
Wow. Okay. So we have to make the big companies care. That's what you're saying.
Right.
Thank you so much, Femi. Thank you so much for your time. The link to his survey is in the description. He needs hundreds and hundreds of people to please help to fill out his survey. I have a feeling you will be back on this show because you have a hobby that we have not talked about. Amen, somebody. If you want to check him out on YouTube, he's the best cook ever. I have tasted his fish pie, right? God bless you.
Yes.
All right. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.